Incredible mass resignation exposed. 18M career justice after heartwarming pizza party backfire. It was a day like no other at the sprawling corporate headquarters of Zephyr Technologies, where fluorescent lights flickered like the nervous energy simmering beneath the surface. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the glass-paneled walls, employees exchanged glances filled with a mix of excitement and dread. The office was buzzing, but not with the talk of business as usual. No, this buzz was different. A heartwarming pizza party laid the groundwork for an astonishing twist that none could have anticipated. Amid laughter and the mouth-watering aroma of cheesy pizzas, the atmosphere felt almost magical, but just underneath that veneer was a tension that thickened the air. You see, whispers echoed through the halls about a secret meeting happening in the executive suite. Rumors of impending layoffs circulated like wildfire, igniting fear in the hearts of employees. Would this festive gathering turn into the final supper for many? The employees had no way of knowing, but there was a sense that the night would lead to something extraordinary, something that would change lives in ways they couldn't yet grasp. As the jolly chatter echoed, a faint sound cut through it all, the shattering of glass. It rang out like a warning bell, silencing the festivities for a moment. Eyes darted to the break room, where a shattered bottle lay in pieces. What was that? Someone gasped, and the collective tension returned tenfold. A stray dog that had wandered in, drawn by the smell, had knocked it over in its hasty pursuit of scraps. But this wasn't just an accident. It felt like an omen. The mood shifted, and laughter faded as the first slice of pizza was served. An odd turn of events. The room filled with apprehensive smiles, masking fear and curiosity. Then came the bombshell. A senior manager, with the weight of the company on their shoulders, stood up, cleared their throat, and announced effective immediately, "We're done with the old ways. Everyone here is now empowered like never before." What came next swept through like a hurricane. In a twist more dramatic than a season finale, the employees began to rise. Suddenly, one by one, each person began tossing their resignation letters into the air like confetti, each letter symbolizing their liberation from an oppressive structure that had drained their spirits dry. A whopping 18 million would be needed to buy out the remaining contracts, and just like that, the office erupted into chaos. Shouts mingled with laughter, anger blended with joy. They were celebrating, but was it truly a victory? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the debris of celebration, a shadow crept across the room, casting doubt. Outside those cheerful walls, the executive team was watching with dread on their faces, knowing the floodgates had opened. From whispers to shouts, from chaos to hope. But what would happen now? With the echoes of memories still fresh, questions hung heavy in the air. Would Zephyr Technologies recover from this mass exodus or be condemned to history as just another fallen giant? The atmosphere thickened with uncertainty, as every eye turned toward the doors, revealing a chilling cliffhanger. What would the morning bring? The morning light spilled into the Zephyr Technologies office, illuminating the remnants of last night's chaos. The celebratory remnants of pizza boxes lay strewn across the floor, a stark contrast to the scattered resignation letters fluttering carelessly in the breeze from open windows. But beneath the surface of apparent jubilation lingered an undercurrent of anxiety. As employees trickled in, the atmosphere shifted. Yesterday's excitement felt more like a wild, reckless dream. Did we really just do that? Someone asked, rubbing their temples as if trying to wake up from a bewildering sleep. Conversations turned to anxious murmurs about what their decisions meant for the future, for their families, their finances, and their careers. And the executive suite, tension built like an impending storm. The CEO, a sharp-eyed figure known for their no-nonsense approach, paced back and forth, phone pressed to their ear. "Focus groups? We're in freefall," they shouted, each word dripping with rage and fear. Their brow furrowed deeply, reflecting a struggle to process what had just happened. "Cancel everything. We need to figure out a way to contain this now." Across the office, whispers circulated. Employees huddled in small groups, eyes wide and nervous, sharing half-hearted jokes that felt hollow. What if they don't pay us our severance? A voice croaked. What if they retaliate? A wave of uncertainty swept through the room, as if a dark cloud had settled over their once bright camaraderie. Then came an alarming text on every phone. A company-wide meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. Anxiety shot through the ranks. What would the executives say? Would they try to intimidate them? Or promise to fix things? The clock ticked mercilessly, each second weighing heavy like lead as the hour approached. Faces lined up before the wide screen in the conference room. Inches from each other, whispers growing louder. Do you think we overreacted? One asked, looking around for reassurance, only to find shared trepidation mirrored in others' eyes. Another piped up, we wanted change. But did we go too far? Whoosh! The large metallic doors whooshed open, as the elite executive team filed in, each wearing a mask of professionalism that barely concealed the fear brewing beneath. The room fell silent, every person holding their breath, awaiting the first words that would either make or shatter them. The CEO stepped in front of the mic, their expression a mix of fury and calculated calm. We've received your resignations and we will not go quietly into the night. They started, voice steady yet sharp. You want empowerment? Then let us talk about consequences. Each resignation will trigger investigations. Every one of you could face legal repercussions. And that 18 million? That's on you. Are you willing to risk it all for a moment as freedom? Gasps rang through the room, hands clenched, hearts pounding. The air thickened with dread. Some would back down, some would stand firm. But one question hung in the balance, heavy and urgent. Who would dare fight back against the establishment? As the meeting reached its climax, a voice broke through the tension, trembling but defiant. You can't scare us back into the shadows. We're standing together. That spark ignited fire in the room, raising the stakes to an unthinkable level. With that bold proclamation, the dam broke. The employees roared with reluctant courage, instinctively feeling the fight within them come alive. Shouting, "We built this place and we deserve respect," reverberated off the walls. But just as the spirit of rebellion surged, a chilling sound echoed from the back of the room. The unmistakable dinging of the emergency alarm sliced through their empowerment like glass, sending shockwaves of panic through every heart. Everyone froze, eyes wide with confusion and terror. What had triggered the alarm? Was this the ultimate betrayal? Or worse, was someone trying to silence them? With that thought hanging over them like a dark cloud ready to burst, the room braced for the fallout of their audacity. And what life-altering decision awaited them next? The alarm blared relentlessly, its shrill sound piercing through the tension like a knife. A sea of anxious faces turned towards the back of the room, where the confusion lingered thick as fog. Employees began to fidget, their earlier defiance crumbling under the weight of uncertainty. They shuffled in place, glancing at the CEO and back to one another, each heart racing to keep up with the beat of fear drumming in their chests. What is happening? Someone shouted, desperation creeping into their voice. The CEO's cool facade cracked under pressure as they turned on their heel, eyes darting around the conference room with boiling irritation. Stay calm. This is a drill. They barked. But the facade of control was slipping, and everyone could see it as if on cue. The main lights flickered, bathing the room in a strobe-like effect. Shadows danced on the walls, amplifying the fear gripping the employees. Whispers morphed into frantic chatter as some reached for their phones, desperately searching for updates. Others pulled together in whispered discussions, exchanging looks that said what words could not. This was not just a fire drill. This was the beginning of something much more sinister. Then the announcement crackled over the intercom. Attention all employees. Evacuate the building immediately. I repeat, evacuate the building immediately. Panic erupted. People surged towards the exits, colliding with each other in a frenzy. The sense of rebellion brewed just a moment ago faded into frantic survival instinct. Those feelings of empowerment felt hollow. Now what mattered was getting out. Lungs burned and hearts raced as they pushed through the doors, the taste of fear thick in the air. But the CO's voice cut through the chaos. Wait, we need to stick together. It was a desperate plea, but there was something different in their tone. A flicker of fear that made the crowd hesitate. Just as they paused, a loud crash reverberated from the stairwell. A heavy thud followed, sending chills skittering up their spines. Someone screamed, and the cry echoed against the walls, reverberating deep within each person's chest. The crowd jerked back, scanning for the source of the sound. Every ear perked up, the pulse of dread quickening as all eyes shifted toward the dimly lit corridor leading to the stairs. Breathless whispers filled the air. What was that? Did someone fall? Get out! But something deeper took hold, a mix of concern and a flicker of determination. Maybe they could note the shift in urgency, the feeling that whatever was going on was bigger than them, more critical than job titles and severance packages. Before they could even reach a decision, the shadows in the hallway shifted. A figure appeared, bearing the unmistakable shape of a man in a dark suit, a security guard. But there was something off about him. His expression was hard, eyes filled with a crazed intensity, as he raised a hand, conveying no words but a chilling command. Stay back. The crowd gasped and stepped collectively into the shadows of the conference room, confusion morphing into horror. What was happening to their company? Were they really in danger? In that moment, someone at the back of the room broke away from the group. It was Kelly, the soft-spoken programmer who had been the first to resign last night. Her eyes were ablaze with something more than fear, a surge of resolve. We can't let them intimidate us, she yelled. If they think we'll run, they're wrong. In that instant, hope ignited anew. With the looming threat behind them and a flicker of rebellion ahead, they faced the choice head-on. Would they turn back to safety or challenge whatever darkness was coming their way? As they hesitated, the alarm continued to shriek, the guard's presence tightening their resolve while fear shackled their legs. The team was torn, the instinct to flee battling the fire of courage sparked by Kelly's defiance. What would they choose in this pivotal moment? Would they step back into the unknown? Or would they take a stand together? The walls of the Zephyr Technologies office might crumble, or they could rise as something entirely different. And just then, the power flickered once more, plunging them into darkness. Silence swallowed the room, thick and heavy. Dread clung to every person inside like a second skin. The frantic rhythm of the alarm echoed in their ears, but the flickering emergency lights failed to cut through the pitch blackness. It felt like a living nightmare. Is everyone okay? Someone whispered, their voice trembling in the dark. The CEO's voice was shaky yet commanding. Stay where you are. We can't panic now. But the uncertainty of that command only escalated the tension. Suddenly, a thudding motion reverberated from the darkened hallway, accompanied by the hardest breath each soul could muster. Kelly took a step forward, a spark of courage igniting her heart. We have to find another way out. There's more to this, she urged, her voice steady despite the fear pooling in her stomach. The others turned towards her, weighing her words against the oppressive darkness. Hope hung in the air, fragile yet potent, like that electric shimmer before a storm. We can't keep waiting for someone else to save us, said another voice from the back. Mark, a junior analyst whose hesitation was fading. What if the guard is working with whoever caused this? What if he is a threat? Eyes darted between shadowy shapes and flickering silhouettes, their expressions shifting from fear to determination. They had to move. As they inched towards the door leading to the stairwell, panic swelled again. A shout echoed from the surrounding darkness, filled with terror of the unknown. We have to go, someone yelled, pushing for the exit. Just as they reached the door, the guard burst into view. Stop! He roared again, but this time chaos reigned. The crowd surged, melding into a wave of mixed emotions: fear, rebellion, confusion. Kelly grabbed Mark's arm, pulling him close. Follow me. Together they ducked and weaved past the guard, who screamed threats that dissolved beneath the mounting roar of panic. They spilled into the cramped stairwell, bodies colliding, hearts drumming like war drums. No one spoke as they raced downwards, the throbbing of their feet echoing off cold concrete, a rhythmic countdown to uncertainty. Midway down, the lights flickered again, illuminating the tight spirals. Kelly began to feel the weight of dread sit heavier in her gut. What if we don't make it out? Someone gasped, breathless, behind her. That question hung heavily, making the descent feel eternal. Each step down paced heavy with the threat above them. With a sudden crash, the lights died completely, leaving them bound in the cold grip of darkness. A split second of silence descended before another thud reverberated below them, much louder, like a signal from a hidden world. They paused, adrenaline coursing, hearts racing. I can't see anything. A voice gasped, panic reemerging. What do we do? This way, Kelly shouted instinctively, heading down another flight toward the sound that was now muddled, a cascade of noise. The dread transformed into urgency, and they pushed themselves into a forward rush, the intensity shooting through each person as they scrambled for answers. With each step, the darkness seemed to swell around them, but they pressed on, adrenaline burning. Voices echoed, frantic and sharp. Something was waiting just below. They stumbled into an opening, the dim light flickering back to life. But it wasn't the lobby they had aimed for. Instead, they stood before a locked door with a sign that read "Authorized personnel only." Kelly's heart dropped. Now what? Just then, a booming voice rang from the other side. You shouldn't have come here. You have no idea what you're stepping into. An icy chill swept through the crowd. What had begun as a simple evacuation had spiraled into something much more dangerous than any of them had prepared for. With breathless anticipation, they exchanged terrified glances, realizing their fight was only just beginning. Would they discover the truth behind the chaos, or were they barreling toward a trap? The door rattled violently behind them, and the pounding of footsteps echoed ominously closer. The door shook again, louder this time, the sound reverberating through the tightly packed group. Kelly felt her breath hitch in her throat. Fear clawed at her insides, desperate to escape. What now? She murmured. Mark, his face pale, crowded close, searching the crowd for a familiar face. We could find something to use. To pry it open? His voice was shaky, but it ignited a flicker of determination in the others. In the dim light, they scanned the small room for anything that could help. Emily, a sharp-faced marketing associate, spotted a metal chair. Over here. This might work. She raced toward it, grabbing it with trembling hands and throwing it against the door in a frenzy. The sound echoed against the metal, but the door held firm. No, that won't do anything, someone shouted, frustration boiling over. Just then, the voice on the other side boomed again, low and filled with menace. You're wasting your time. You've already crossed a line. You'll regret this. A collective shiver ran through them. Whatever lay beyond this door was not just a simple threat, it was a warning. Why are they doing this? Kelly thought. What's the secret? Her mind raced while her heart pounded louder. Listen, Mark said suddenly, holding a hand up to silence the group. What if we just talk to them? Talk? Someone scoffed, but Mark held eye contact, his eyes wide with possibility. Just for a second. We can't just charge into whatever trap is waiting for us. Let me try. Before he could question himself further, Mark stepped closer to the door, the others watching him with mixed expressions of hope and apprehension. Hello? He called, his voice surprisingly steady. We just want to understand what's happening. We didn't mean to intrude. Silence fell heavy again. Then a low laugh, chilling and sharp, slithered through the crack beneath the door. Understand? You're not meant to understand anything. This was never for you. Mark cringed at the reply, retreating a few steps. We can help. He tried. If you let us go, we won't tell anyone. We just want to leave. Another laugh echoed back, but it wasn't just the voice, there was something else. A low hum of machinery merging with the laughter growing louder. Kelly's heart raced again, the frequency vibrating unsettlingly through her bones. She's right about one thing, the voice said, cutting through the noise. You have no idea what you're part of. Once you enter, it doesn't matter if you leave. Panic clawed back, pressing down harder than before. Kelly's mind flicked through options, but before she could think of anything, a sense of urgency gripped her. We need to do something now. They turned back to the stairs, the noise behind them rising to a contagious crescendo. The ceiling shivered as the footsteps became thunderous, a promise of chaos. Back up. We have to find another way. She shouted, pushing the group toward the exit as adrenaline flooded her veins. They rushed to the stairwell, but the ominous sounds soon morphed into screams and frantic shouts. The something lurking above wasn't just a promise. It was a reality crashing down upon them. As they fled back up the spiraled steps, the door behind them split wide open, revealing a darkened corridor lined with flickering lights. Faces emerged, watching with eyes hungry for chaos. Just as they stumbled backward, another loud crash echoed. A figure lunged into view, shadowy and massive, blocking their escape. Run! Kelly screamed, but where could they go? Would they find a way to escape the nightmare that was now their reality? Or would they fall deeper into the trap set long before they even entered the building? As they pushed forward into the corridor, the figure advanced, shifting, preparing to strike. Every ounce of fear surged through them. This was about to get a lot worse. What lay beyond that looming figure? Could they push through the depths of terror waiting ahead? Or was it the end of their freedom? The answer was just out of reach, hanging like a sword over their heads. The figure loomed larger, a grotesque shadow against the dim flicker of the corridor lights. It stepped forward, the floor creaking beneath its weight, and as the others froze in place, panic exploded within Kelly. The instinct to flee was primal, yet something within her urged caution. Together. We need to stay together. She shouted, her voice crackling with urgency. They forced themselves into motion, charging down the corridor, but that only made the figure react faster. It lunged, arms outstretched, the outline twisting in a way that made Kelly's skin crawl. A scream ripped through the air, but she couldn't tell whether it was her own or someone else's. Left, Mark shouted, pointing to a doorway barely visible in the shuddering shadows. The group veered, heartbeats racing, colliding against the cold steel doorframe. Barely a second later, the monstrous figure slammed into the wall of the corridor, shaking the light fixtures. Glass rained down, and with it came a fresh wave of panic. Go! Emily screamed, her voice sharp against the chaos. She pushed through the doorway, urging others to follow. One by one, they stumbled into a small windowless room that smelled moldy and stale. Kelly barely registered the dim glow of fluorescent lights humming overhead while tangling with her racing thoughts. Lock it! Mark yelled, slamming the door shut just as the sound of heavy footsteps approached. He fumbled with the latch, a bead of sweat tracing down his forehead. Is it enough? Someone whispered, their voice trembling, anxiety palpable in the cramped space. No, Kelly replied, her voice a low rasp. We need to find a way out. This isn't over. They pressed themselves against the wall, listening as the creature banged against the door, a low growl slipping through the cracks. Each thud shook their resolve, the air thick with terror. Kelly's heart hammered louder than any noise around her. Could they really survive this? A frazzled look crossed Emily's face. What was that thing? What do they want from us? That wasn't just a guard, Mark muttered, glancing at the barely closed door. Felt alive. Like it exists to hunt us down. No, it's more than that, Kelly interjected suddenly, piecing it together, each word tumbling forth with urgency. They said we crossed a line. We were told we weren't meant to understand. It wants us to feel helpless, trapped. Mark's eyes widened. But there must be a way to fight back. A way to turn this around. Emily added, desperation lacing her words. What can we even do? Someone asked, a mix of dread and hope dancing in their voice. The banging on the door intensified, reverberating with anxiety. There's a way out, I know it. Kelly insisted, the determination surging within her. We just need to think. They began searching the room, eyes darting over the dull concrete walls. A flicker of something shiny caught Kelly's eye. A fire extinguisher hung on the wall, silent but promising. Here. We can use this, she exclaimed, grabbing it. If we can spray it in its face, we might be able to escape. It could buy us time. Mark nodded, directing the others toward the fire extinguisher. But where do we go after? Just then, the door buckled under another forceful blow. Splinters flew as the creature howled, a growling sound layered with something almost human. Now. We have to go now, Kelly shouted. With adrenaline blurring their senses, they braced for whatever horrors lay ahead and pushed out into the open. Would their last-ditch plan work? Or was this merely the peak of their nightmare? The corridor twisted into darkness, promising danger at every turn. And as they raced forward, the echo of their fate split through the air, leaving them teetering on the edge of despair. What awaited in the unlit expanse? A path to safety or an inescapable trap? They stumbled through the corridor, muscles tight with terror and resolve. Kelly gripped the fire extinguisher, its cold metal a lifeline in her trembling hands. With every step they took, the echoes of their panicked breaths filled the empty space, punctuated by the distant groans of the creature behind them. What if it finds us? Emily whispered, glancing back, her voice laced with dread. Then we're dead, Mark said grimly, looking ahead at the darkness that seemed to swallow the corridor. Keep moving. As they pressed forward, the hall seemed to elongate. Shadows danced along the walls, contorting into nightmarish shapes. Suddenly, a sharp sound sliced through the air, a vicious rattle, like chains being dragged across concrete. Kelly's heart sank. "Did you hear that?" Someone gasped, eyes wide with fear. "It's coming," Kelly urged, her voice unsteady. "We need an escape route now." At the end of the corridor, a faint light flickered. They moved toward it, their pace quickening as the guttural growl of the figure pressed in on them like a vice. Adrenaline surged through Kelly. She could practically taste the metallic tang of fear on her tongue. "Is it a way out?" Mark asked as they neared the light. "It has to be," Kelly declared. The brightness grew stronger, revealing a door, emblazoned with a stark exit sign. But something gnawed at her. "Wait, be careful. We don't know what's on the other side," she said, her voice low but urgent. Emily hesitated, biting her lip. "What if it leads to more danger? Or safety?" Mark snapped, frustration rising as the creature's growls resonated closer. In that instant, the door rattled, an ominous thud echoing from within. Kelly felt her resolve crumbling. "We don't have time," she shouted, pushing the others aside as she threw the door open. The room was expansive, eerily quiet, with walls lined in darkened glass, reflecting their frantic faces in distorted ways. A chill swept through as they stepped inside. "What is this place?" Emily asked, horror dawning on her. "Some kind of control room," Mark replied, glancing around at the flickering screens and scattered papers. "Maybe we can find a way to defend ourselves or—" Another relentless thump at the door sent a jolt through Kelly. "We can't stay here." She scanned the room, noting a heavy desk chair, multiple monitors, and a wall filled with blinking red lights. "What do those do?" Without answering, Mark rushed to a nearby screen. "They're displaying temperatures and coordinates." "Wait, what is this?" Kelly joined him just as a red light flashed, illuminating the far end of the room, revealing another exit. "That might be our way out," she exclaimed, but then a series of shouts erupted from the door behind them, and the growling grew more intense. The creature was almost through. "What do we do?" Emily cried, panic escalating in her tone. "We split up," Mark suggested, both wild and desperate. "One of us distracts the thing, the others escape through the other door." "No way," Kelly protested. "You can't sacrifice yourself, this is madness. It's the only option. It's the only chance we have," he shouted back, his eyes fierce with determination. Before Kelly could argue, the door shuddered violently again, and splintered wood flew into the room. The time for decision was stolen away. "Now!" Kelly screamed, her heart racing as fear and desperation wove together. They bolted in different directions, Mark sprinting towards the door while Kelly and Emily dashed to the security monitors, rapidly looking for anything that might help. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream resonated through the chaos. Emily cried, turning back, but Kelly grabbed her arm, forcing her to focus. "It's too late. We have to go now." But as they rushed towards the exit, the room seemed to close in on them. Would they escape with their lives intact? Or would the horrors they hunted turn on them completely? As the creature's roar echoed like a death knell, their fate hung in the balance. Where would this path lead, freedom or a final confrontation? Only seconds stood between peril and salvation. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing off any sound of Mark's last moments. As Kelly and Emily raced toward the second exit, the urgency surged through them. The creature's snarls filled the space, louder, closer. "Keep running," Kelly urged, her voice trembling. They launched themselves forward, the flickering lights above casting erratic shadows that clawed at their heels. Desperation fueled their sprint, heartbeat thrumming in time with their pounding footfalls. They shot through the doorway and stumbled into a narrow staircase that spiraled downward. Each step echoed in the dim light, and the cold metal railing felt slick against Kelly's sweaty palm. "What if it follows us down?" Emily panted, a fresh wave of terror twisting her features. "It can't fit down here, right?" Kelly forced herself to sound more confident than she felt. "We're safe, for now." But even as she spoke, the gnawing fear clawed at her gut. They reached the bottom, the air thick with moisture and the faint smell of mold. Kelly glanced around the dimly lit space, her heart sinking. It was a damp, concrete bunker, no windows, no exit signs, just dark corridors branching off in every direction. A distant drip echoed in the silence. Time slipped away and their breaths became shallow. Which way? Emily whispered, looking at Kelly with those wide, frightened eyes. Let us try left. Feels clearer. Kelly pointed, her voice cracking slightly. They moved cautiously, peering into the shadows, each sound magnified in the oppressive quiet. As they proceeded, the low hum of machinery began to resonate around them, vibrating through the floor. What is that? Emily asked, stopping in her tracks. I don't know, Kelly answered, her heart thumping harder in her chest. It was a sound that grew louder, shifting from an ominous hum to something mechanical, almost violent, but before they could decide on a course of action, a loud crash erupted behind them. It was the sound of something colliding with walls, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The creature was searching, now drawn by the sound of their escape. Run! Kelly yelled, and they dashed into the nearest corridor, their fear propelling them forward. They passed doors marked with warning signs, each one a promise of further horror. They skidded to a halt. Ahead loomed a massive door that looked too heavy to budge but locked tight. Do you think we can get it open? Emily gasped, her face pale. We have to try, Kelly said, searching for any leverage. She approached the door, pressing her body against it, putting all her weight into a push. But it didn't budge. Panic clawed at her throat. Please let us find another way. Suddenly Emily's hand shot to the wall. Look. She pointed to a series of control panels, many lined with blinking lights, some cracked and broken. Kelly's breath caught in her throat. What if we can override the door? Get it open? A faint hope flickered to life. They could still escape. Do you know how to use that? Emily asked, her voice slightly trembling. Not really, Kelly admitted. Okay. We don't have much time, Emily breathed out, a thin veil of resolve covering her fear. As they approached the panel, the sounds from the corridor shifted, an ominous scratching echoing, then rising to frantic banging. The creature was drawing closer. They had no choice but to act. Kelly pressed buttons at random, praying for something to happen. The lights blinked in response, casting eerie shadows against the walls. An alarm blared, sending a shock of dread through her body. Is that good? Emily shouted over the noise, fear stark on her face. No. I think it's alerting it to us, Kelly replied, panic pulsing through her. Before she could press another button, the wall trembled violently. The door creaked, rattling as something heavy slammed against it from the other side. The creature determined to break through. Then with a loud mechanical whir, the door began to slide open. But there was no certainty that freedom awaited them beyond the threshold. Caught between terror and hope, both girls held their breath. What would they find on the other side? Would it be escape or a new horror waiting just beyond the door? Their fate held uncertain with every thundering heartbeat. And the creature's echoing growl blended into their growing dread as they prepared to step into the unknown. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing a yawning darkness beyond. Heartbeats thundered in their ears, drowning out the mechanical buzz that filled the space. Kelly and Emily exchanged glances, fear and determination etched on their faces. Maybe it's safe, Emily whispered, though her voice broke. Just let us go, Kelly urged, pushing her fear aside. They stepped through the door into the dark. The air shifted, a cold draft brushing past them like a warning. The noise of their hurried footsteps echoed off the metal walls, creating an unsettling symphony of dread. They both strained to listen, hoping the monster wouldn't follow. But at that moment, silence fell thick and heavy like the calm before a storm. Where are we? Emily asked, her eyes adjusting to the gloom. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, faintly illuminated by flickering overhead lights. The walls were lined with faded images of experiments bizarre and chilling. They depicted creatures that remained locked behind the viewer's gaze. Let South stay close, Kelly replied, bumping shoulders with her friend as she tried to instill courage into their shaky resolve. They moved forward cautiously, every whisper of air making them jump, every flicker of light sending sparks of alarm through their nerves. The reality of their situation pressed down on them. They were not simply running away, they were buried in a lair of nightmares. A flicker of movement caught Kelly's eye. She turned sharply, her heart racing. But when she looked, nothing was there. Did you see that? She asked Emily, who shook her head, fear tightening her grip on Kelly's arm. Maybe it's just our imagination from all of this, Emily said, but they both knew the truth. Terror hung thick in the air. The deep hum from before had transformed into sharp, jerky beeps of machinery, announcing their intrusion into something alive and watchful. They rounded a corner, and a surge of light flooded the area, revealed the remnants of a laboratory. Metal tables laid scattered, broken glass glinting like shards of lost hope. Unfinished projects hung from the ceiling, deformed shapes, remnants of experiments gone wrong. One table caught Kelly's eye. It held a collection of vials labeled with names that sent shivers down her spine. "Look," she pointed, then paused, feeling a sudden sense of dread wash over her. What were they doing here? "I don't want to know." Emily took a step back, her voice a shaky whisper. "We need to keep moving. This place gives me the creeps." Another crash echoed behind them, loud and distinct. They hadn't escaped yet. Whatever chaos had followed them through the door was still eager to reclaim its prey. "Quick," Kelly said, but before they could take another step, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. A low growl rose from the shadows, rumbling through the air like a tightening fist. Panic surged through their veins as they clutched each other, fear boiling over. It was all closing in on them, walls of terror, the sound of something large moving through the dark. "Keep going," Kelly urged, shoving Emily forward before taking a step into the blackness. Fumbling ahead, they rushed deeper into the bowels of the lab, desperate to escape the growl that echoed like death around them. Then, an unsettling scratching sound echoed closer, punctuated by the soft thud of something massive. "It's right behind us," Emily gasped, her breath quickening. Adrenaline coursed through them, the instinct to survive igniting a primal urge. They barely registered the path they took, blurred by urgency and growing dread. Their only goal was escape. The corridor twisted and turned. Impossible choices confronted them with each step. A door to the left beckoned. "Emily, this way," Kelly shouted, racing toward the door, praying it would lead to safety. But just as they reached for the handle, the door burst open and a wide furry shape loomed. The creature's eyes glowed in the darkness, its toothy grin spreading wide, a twisted smile of hunger. "Incoming!" Kelly screamed, and both girls dove to the side as the beast lunged, teeth flashing like knives in the dim light. They tumbled into the doorway, half a second away from being devoured. How close they had come to a brutal end. "What now?" Emily cried, barely catching her breath as they scrambled to regain their footing on the cold concrete floor. "What if this is the end?" Kelly whispered, gripping her friend's hand. But as they caught a glimpse of the creature slamming against the door they had just narrowly escaped, a glimmer of something caught Kelly's eye across the corridor. Something laying against the wall, a weapon. "Over there." She pointed fiercely. Hope flared in her chest. Desperate, they lunged for the object, realizing they had mere moments before their pursuer found another way in. "Will it be enough?" Emily asked, her voice tremulous as they broke toward it, bracing for another confrontation. The answers lay ahead, where the line between life and death was about to blur once more. The tension hung thick in the air as Kelly and Emily grasped the makeshift weapon, a heavy pipe that glinted ominously under the flickering lights. They didn't have much time. The creature roared behind them, a sound that echoed with desperation and hunger. "Let us move," Kelly urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. With the pipe in hand, they turned to face the oncoming threat. "Are we really going to fight that thing?" Emily's voice trembled. "It's either us or it," Kelly shot back, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. They steeled themselves, bracing for impact. As the door cracked open, the creature surged forward, its massive form overwhelming in the strobing lights. Kelly swung the pipe with all her might, catching the creature on the side of its head. The creature yelped, staggering back in surprise, but it was just a momentary setback. A glimpse of wild eyes glistening with rage bore down on them. "Run!" Kelly shouted, and together they shot down the corridor, the sound of heavy breathing behind them urging them to go faster. Each step felt like a countdown to doom, but hope flared with every turn. A faint glow ahead. "The exit!" Emily gasped, pointing toward a sliver of light bursting from a half-open metal door ahead. They surged forward, pushing through the heavy door, rushing into the blinding sunlight that felt like a long-lost promise. Outside, fresh air filled their lungs, washing away the staleness of fear. But the moment was fleeting. Behind them, the creature erupted from the building, its growl echoing as the door smashed against the wall. "We have to get to the cars," Kelly shouted, scanning the parking lot. They sprinted across the pavement, heartbeats matching the rhythm of their frantic escape. Emily's fingers trembled as she fumbled with her keys. "Come on, come on," she muttered under her breath as she pressed the unlock button. The car blinked in response, offering a glimmer of hope. With one final push, they dove inside, slamming the doors behind them. Emily put the key in the ignition. "Start, please." The creature thundered closer, claws scraping against metal, a horrible growl vibrating through the ground beneath them. "Now," Kelly shouted as Emily twisted the key, causing the car to roar to life. Without hesitation, Emily punched the gas, and they shot forward, zooming away just as the creature smacked against the back of the car. "We did it. We really did it." Emily laughed shakily, relief flooding over them. But the moment of respite was short-lived. Ahead lay a massive field, where a protest had gathered. Strikes against corporate greed and abuse were the call of the day. "Do we tell them?" Kelly asked, glancing at the protesters. "They need to know what's happening in there." Emily nodded firmly. The chaos they escaped no longer belonged to just them. It belonged to everyone who had faced oppression. They pulled over and jumped out, breathless yet determined. "Hey, you all need to know what's really happening at Zephyr Technologies," Kelly shouted, raising her arms to get the crowd's attention. The murmurs turned into a chorus of curiosity. Emily added, "They think they can control us. We are not just numbers. We are human beings, and we are standing up for our rights." The crowd roared in agreement, ignited by their words. Muffled cheers and chants began to fill the air, a powerful surge of unity. They stood together against the backdrop of anger turned to hope, their hearts swelling. No longer were they running from fear, they were building something new: solidarity. As they looked out at the sea of determined faces, a profound sense of purpose swept over them. "Let us fight for our justice," Kelly declared, the words ringing true as they united to forge a path against the darkness of tyranny. And in that moment, surrounded by courage and conviction, they carved out their future. This chapter of their lives wasn't just an escape, it was a beginning. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for all the incredible stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure our community grows. Every detail matters, and I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Together, let us rise and bring change.